Picture it. The roof of the world. A lone figure, frost-rhymed, planting a flag, a singular hero against the savage indifference of nature's grandest, most brutal monument. That's the snapshot often seared into our collective memory. But what if that iconic image of solitary conquest is a masterpiece of oversimplification? A convenient myth obscuring a truth far more complex, far more human, and infinitely more inspiring. What if the real key to unlocking the summit of Mount Everest, this icy, oxygen-starved titan, wasn't one man's singular Herculean grit, but an unbreakable, unspoken pact forged in the crucible of extreme altitude and mortal peril between two men from worlds almost impossibly far apart? Forget the legend of the lone conqueror. We're about to dissect the astonishing, intricate dance of teamwork that actually placed humanity on the highest point on Earth. Their secret. It's more powerful than you think. Before 1953, Mount Everest, or Chomolungma, goddess mother of the world to the Sherpas, was less a mountain and more a vertical graveyard of ambition. The third pole, it had repelled every attempt, a silent, colossal testament to human frailty. Expeditions, laden with hope and the era's best technology, had ventured into its icy embrace only to be spat out, broken, frostbitten, or worse. The challenges were, quite literally, breathtaking. Air so thin it felt like breathing razor blades, hurricane-force winds that could tear a man from his anchors, temperatures that could freeze exposed flesh in seconds, and treacherous, ever-shifting terrain like the infamous Khumbu Icefall, a chaotic, frozen waterfall of seracs and crevasses. It was the ultimate unconquered frontier. Enter the 1953 British Mount Everest expedition, a behemoth of an undertaking led with military precision by Colonel John Hunt. This was no casual jaunt. It was a meticulously planned assault, a national endeavor carrying the weight of an empire's pride. Over 400 men were involved, including 362 porters, 20 Sherpa climbers, and a team of Sahib climbers from Britain and the Commonwealth. Tons of equipment, from specialized oxygen sets to tins of sardines, were ferried up the Himalayan foothills. The pressure to succeed was immense. In this sprawling cast, two figures would ultimately step into the spotlight, destined for immortality. First, Edmund Hillary, a lanky, rugged beekeeper from New Zealand. An experienced mountaineer, yes, but on the world stage, perhaps initially underestimated. He was practical, immensely strong, driven by a quiet, stubborn determination. Then, Tenzing Norgay, a Sherpa born in Nepal, in the very shadow of the great mountain. For Tenzing, Everest was more than a challenge. It was a spiritual entity, a part of his heritage. He was, by 1953, arguably one of the most experienced Everest climbers alive, having participated in multiple previous attempts. He possessed unparalleled local knowledge, incredible physical prowess at altitude, and a deep, intuitive understanding of the mountain's moods. He wasn't merely a guide, he was a world-class mountaineer. The ascent itself was a colossal exercise in logistics and human endurance, a pyramid of effort with Hillary and Tenzing eventually forming its apex. The journey began with the terrifying Khumbu Icefall, a shifting, creaking labyrinth of ice towers and deep crevasses that had to be navigated repeatedly to establish a route and ferry supplies. Sherpas, the true unsung heroes of almost every Everest expedition, performed superhuman feats of load carrying in this treacherous zone. One by one, camps were established, leapfrogging higher and higher up the mountain's flanks. Base Camp, Camp 2, in the western Khum, the Valley of Silence. Camp 3 on the Lhotse face. Each foot gained was a battle against altitude sickness, exhaustion, and the ever-present risk of avalanches or falls. Many strong climbers were forced to turn back, their bodies succumbing to the brutal conditions. The expedition leader, John Hunt, initially selected two-man teams for summit attempts. The first pair chosen for the assault was Tom Bourdillon and Charles Evans. On May 26th, they made a valiant effort, using experimental closed-circuit oxygen sets. They successfully reached the south summit, a mere 300 vertical feet from the true summit, higher than anyone had ever stood before. But they were utterly exhausted, plagued by oxygen equipment malfunctions, and with time running out, they made the heartbreaking but correct decision to turn back. Their effort, while not reaching the final goal, provided crucial reconnaissance and proved the route to the south summit was viable. The pressure now shifted squarely onto the next and possibly final assault team, Hillary and Tenzing. Supported by a small team including Ong Nima, George Low, and Alf Gregory, Hillary and Tenzing pushed upwards to establish Camp 9, the final, highest camp. They carved out a precarious platform on a sloping ice face at an astonishing 27,900 feet, deep within the death zone, where the human body is literally dying with every passing minute due to lack of oxygen. They spent a harrowing night there, enduring frigid temperatures and howling winds. Hillary's boots, left outside the tent, froze solid, requiring 2 desperate hours over a Primus stove the next morning to thaw them enough to wear. May 29, 1953, Summit Day. They set off before dawn, the cold a physical entity, biting and relentless. The air was achingly thin, every step an enormous effort, even with their open-circuit oxygen sets. They moved slowly, methodically, roped together, sharing the task of breaking trail through the virgin snow. They reached the south summit, where Bourdillon and Evans had turned back. Before them lay the final, unknown knife-edge ridge leading to the main summit. And then, the last great obstacle, a formidable, near-vertical 40-foot rock face, later famously dubbed the Hillary Step. It looked almost impassable. Hillary, an adept rock climber, found a narrow crack between the rock and an ice cornice. He later wrote of jamming his way up, inch by agonizing inch, crampons scraping for purchase, ice axe providing precarious leverage, with Tenzing providing a crucial, life-sustaining belay from below. It was a moment of supreme teamwork. A single slip by either man would have meant certain death for both. After conquering the step, the ridge continued, seemingly endlessly. Each snow plod felt like the last. And then, as Hillary described it, the ridge, instead of rising, now dropped sharply away. We were on a symmetrical, beautiful snow-cone summit. They had done it. They stood on the highest point on Earth. The question that immediately arose, and would persist for decades, was, who stepped first? Both men consistently maintained they reached it essentially together, as a team. Tenzing, a devout Buddhist, left offerings of sweets and biscuits in the snow. Hillary took photographs, famously capturing Tenzing with his ice axe held aloft, flags of Britain, Nepal, India, and the United Nations fluttering. Curiously, there is no photograph of Hillary on the summit itself. Tenzing, by Hillary's own account, didn't know how to operate the camera. The descent was almost as perilous as the ascent, a race against dwindling oxygen and encroaching exhaustion. But the knowledge of their triumph fueled them. Upon reaching the South Col, where George Low was waiting, Hillary's famously understated words were, "Well, George, we knocked the bastard off." The news, carefully managed, was rushed down the mountain and cabled to London, arriving just in time to be announced on the morning of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation, June 2nd, a moment of immense national pride and jubilation for a post-war Britain. The world erupted in celebration. Hillary and Tenzing were catapulted to global fame. Knighthoods, medals, and accolades rained down. But almost immediately, the narrative began to be subtly twisted by nationalistic fervor. Was it the New Zealander, representing the British Commonwealth, or the Sherpa, representing Nepal, India, who was truly first? This question, often fueled by media and political interests, sometimes overshadowed the reality of their shared achievement. Both men, throughout their lives, handled this pressure with dignity, always emphasizing the teamwork involved. Tenzing once said, "If it is a shame to be the second man on Mount Everest, then I will have to live with this shame." Hillary, for his part, consistently highlighted Tenzing's skill and strength as integral to their success. So what was their secret? It wasn't a revolutionary piece of equipment or a novel climbing technique. It was something far more fundamental, yet often harder to achieve. An extraordinary partnership built on mutual respect, shared hardship, complementary skills, and an unwavering, unspoken trust in the most extreme environment imaginable. Two men from vastly different backgrounds and cultures, bound together by a rope and an audacious dream, proved that the highest peaks, literal or metaphorical, are rarely conquered alone. Their legacy isn't just about being first. It's an enduring testament to the incredible power of collaboration in the face of seemingly impossible odds.